He painted saints with the faces of prostitutes, stabbed a man over a tennis match, and died alone on a beach, hunted by the law and the church. His final painting may have predicted his own death. If you think art history is boring, you haven't met Caravaggio. Caravaggio's story begins in the shadow of death. At just 6 years old, he watched plague tear through his home, taking both his father and grandfather. That kind of loss doesn't fade, it hardens. Most artists of his time followed tradition, painting gentle Madonnas and glowing angels. But Caravaggio saw a world full of blood, sweat, and brokenness, and that's what he painted. He trained in Milan under a master who had studied with Titian. On paper, he was destined for greatness, yet something in him refused to play by the rules. When he arrived in Rome in his 20s, he had no patrons, no fortune, only talent and a dangerous temper. He slept where he could, fought when provoked, and painted like a man possessed. The rise, but at what cost? His breakthrough came with a painting that felt more like a whisper than a sermon. The Calling of St. Matthew, a dim tavern, men hunched over coins, a shaft of light cuts across the scene, and Christ, barely visible in the shadows, points. There's no halo, no throne, no gold, just a hand gesture and a choice. But the power, unmistakable. The room feels real, dusty, tense, as if you could step into it and smell the smoke. Viewers were frozen in place. Some wept, others fumed. Caravaggio didn't just show the divine, he made it walk among the sinners. And it worked. Church patrons, desperate to stay relevant, hired him. Commissions rolled in. His name became a force in Rome. But with that fame came a storm. He was arrogant, explosive. He fought over rent, over women, over insults. Once, he smashed a man's face with a stick for criticizing his art. Another time, he threw a plate of artichokes at a waiter because they were served wrong. The church may have praised his brush, but Rome's police knew his fists. His paintings became darker, not just in subject, but in soul. His saints bled more. His sinners looked more desperate. His light grew harsher. His shadows deeper. It was as if he were painting his own descent. He had everything to lose and acted like he didn't care. Then came the moment that changed everything. A street brawl, a sword drawn, blood spilled, a man lay dead, and Caravaggio ran. The fugitive years. The victim's name was Ranuccio Tomassoni, a man of status. The cause? Some say a tennis match. Others whisper it was over a woman, maybe both. What matters is this. Caravaggio killed him. He struck low, cutting the femoral artery. Ranuccio bled out in minutes. Now, Caravaggio wasn't just a scandalous painter, he was a wanted man. The sentence? Death. Anyone could kill him and deliver his severed head to claim the bounty. So he ran, first to Naples. You'd think exile would crush him, but instead, his art exploded. There he painted the 7 works of mercy, a crowded, chaotic canvas filled with acts of kindness woven into a street scene so alive it almost moves. It was darker, grittier, and more brilliant than anything he'd done before. People in Naples welcomed him not just as an artist, but as a myth, a dangerous genius on the run. But Caravaggio didn't stop there. He fled further to Malta, hoping the island's powerful knights might protect him, and somehow they did. He charmed them, painted for them, they even made him a Knight of the Order of Saint John. A murderer turned knight, only Caravaggio. But peace never lasted long in his world. Another fight, another wounded man. This time he landed in a Maltese prison. Yet again he escaped. No one knows how. Some say bribes, others say help from the inside. All we know is this: Caravaggio was loose again, more dangerous, more desperate, and still painting. Dark visions and close calls. From Malta, Caravaggio fled to Sicily, and something in him had shifted. His paintings, once dramatic, now looked haunted. Take the beheading of Saint John the Baptist. Blood drips, slow and thick. The moment is still, not just violent, but resigned. The executioner doesn't look angry, just tired. The painting is massive, but the signature? It's written in the saint's blood, not ink, blood. It was no longer just religious drama. Caravaggio was painting fear, his own. As he moved from town to town, whispers followed him. Was he cursed? Possessed? He rarely stayed anywhere more than a few months. He slept in strangers' homes, ate in silence, and always kept one eye on the door. Back in Naples, he hoped to rebuild his life, maybe even return to Rome. He painted portraits, altarpieces, even gifts meant to charm the Pope into granting him a pardon. But Rome had a long memory, and Caravaggio had new enemies. One night as he left a tavern, men attacked him. His face was slashed so brutally, some said he was left for dead. He vanished for weeks. But he didn't die. And when he returned to the canvas, his self-portraits had changed. Gone was the brash rebel. Now, he painted himself as Goliath, his own severed head held by the victor. Was it guilt? A confession? Or a warning? No one knew, but the end was coming. The road to death. In 1610, Caravaggio got word he'd been waiting years to hear. A papal pardon was coming. If he could just reach Rome, he'd be free. No more running, no more hiding, no more fear. So he packed his final works, canvases meant as offerings, and boarded a ship north, hoping to meet the pardon en route. But he never made it. Some say he was arrested mid-journey by mistake, and in the chaos, his ship sailed off, taking his belongings, his pardon papers, and his future with it. He chased the boat up the coast. Days passed. He wandered the beach near Porto Ercole, sick, sunburned, and frantic. And then he was gone. He died there, alone. No fanfare, no funeral, no clear cause. Some blame fever, others whispered poison. Many believe it was lead poisoning, slowly killing him from inside the very paints he used. The man who gave light to the shadows may have been killed by his own colors. Caravaggio was 38. No one ever recovered his body. He died as he lived, brilliant, hunted, and unfinished. Legacy and resurrection. Caravaggio died nameless, penniless, and forgotten. For centuries, his works were scattered, misattributed, or ignored. But legends have a way of clawing their way back into the light. In the 20th century, scholars began re-examining unsigned paintings with dramatic shadows and raw emotion. Brushwork, lighting, poses, they all pointed to one man, Caravaggio. One by one, lost masterpieces were found. His name resurfaced, not as a criminal, but as a genius far ahead of his time. Today, his influence is everywhere. In galleries, his paintings now hang beside the greats he once rebelled against. In cinema, directors like Martin Scorsese borrow his moody, violent lighting, where faces emerge from darkness and choices hang in the air like breath. In photography, graphic novels, fashion editorials, you'll find his fingerprints in every shadow that tells a story. He changed art forever, not by painting what was ideal, but by daring to show what was real. Pain, doubt, lust, faith, blood, not separated but tangled like they are in life. The final gaze. So who was Caravaggio really? A genius? A madman? A sinner who painted saints? Or a saint trapped in the skin of a violent man? He was all of it. He broke every rule, but in doing so, rewrote what art could be. Caravaggio teaches us that beauty doesn't live in perfection. It lives in pain, in struggle, in contradiction. He didn't flinch from human ugliness, he exposed it. And somehow in that darkness, he found light. His works don't ask for admiration. They demand honesty. They don't whisper from gallery walls. They stare back. So the next time you pass a painting and feel your breath catch, when the shadows reach towards you and a figure stares like it knows what you've done, that's Caravaggio. Still watching, still telling stories, not with words, but with blood, brush, and shadow.